Yes, March 26, 2019. Back here on the Koeneke Hour after a 2-week break. Approximately a 2-week break for spring break.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please
As I
have your
replay the intro, that's my bad. Just getting back into the groove of things here on KSSU.com. Once again, I'm Nick Koeneke. Thanks for joining me today here on the radio and on the internet, streaming live on KSSU.com. What's going on? Welcome to a passionate, heated, incomparable, and at times a very inconsistent discussion about everything in the sports world and all the irritations going on personally to my friends and family down south, back east, and up here in Sacramento. Thanks for tuning in, guys. What is up? Haven't been on the radio waves for about 2 weeks. I'm really excited to be back. Got a lot to talk about here on a Tuesday. And really excited. We are in a brand new studio here on Sacramento, or at Sacramento State. We moved about halfway across campus over to the Student Union, where we now have a view of students walking to and from classes here at the Union. Either they're hanging out, grabbing something to eat, or studying. I actually had a guy come up right before the show started, and he came up to the window, and just this maniac guy started screaming at me. And just going, woo, trying to distract me. It's like, dude, do you not see the on-air button that's out there? It wasn't on, so I'm not on the air, so you're doing nothing to distract me. So it's kind of interesting now that we're here at the Union. If you're familiar with Sac State, you know what I'm talking about. Because at our old studio, we were right next to the entrance to the gym. So we could see people walk in, but they didn't really see us because we were kind of a random window. Now we're right on the side of a very busy walkway in the Union, where it's on the left we have the parking lot where students who live off campus come in, and then to the right of us we have the library and most of the academic buildings where people take classes. So a lot of people are going back and forth throughout the day, and we have now a new speaker outside so that people who are walking by can potentially listen to us if they're not having their headphones in like most students do. They'll be able to hear us talk and hear me spill my nonsense out on the radio wave. So that's pretty cool. I'm really excited to be here in the studio. I'm really excited to be back here with KSSU, trying to wrap up my super senior year here at Sacramento State. So I got about plus or minus 8 more shows here with KSSU. Kind of bittersweet in that I'm graduating, but also bittersweet that I really enjoyed working here. I'm really happy to be back after a long spring break. I took a little extra time, took my exams really early, and was able to get about 10 days off instead of the normal 7 that we get for spring break. But today we got a lot going on. I'm really pumped for opening day on Thursday. I'm going to hit the classes, then right after that watching the Pirates game, and then watching the games on the ESPN networks, and really excited to get the season started. So Sean Holko, who works here at KSSU.com and works for the student newspaper, the State Hornet, will join me to talk a little March Madness, but mostly baseball, and we'll get his opinion on the new studio and what he likes about it, what he doesn't like about. But we got Koeneke Rant of the Week. Stop it right now. Koeneke's Best. Got a lot to get to today here on a Tuesday. So thanks for joining me. Thanks for coming back, and let's get started today with the Koeneke Rant of the Week. Before I get into that, actually, once again, check out my Twitter at the Koeneke Hour. Koeneke spelled Koeneke. Check me out on Instagram at Nick Koeneke. And check out the podcast. Almost forgot that one. On YouTube, just search the Koeneke Hour or search my podcast, the Keep Calm and Stay Offended podcast. You'll find all of my content right there. So you can go back, listen to part of the show that you missed, or listen to previous shows and get all your Nick Koeneke content, so to speak. So let's get into the Koeneke Rant of the Week. And this week, I'm going to take a different approach. And what I mean by that is I'm going to not necessarily rant about something that bothers me. Well, it does bother me, but it doesn't rile me up, and I'm not super angry about it. And it's something that I don't really ever discuss here on the radio. If you're familiar with my show, if you're familiar with me, I'm pretty happy-go-lucky. In that I'm joking consistently. I don't really take life super serious. And I kind of just, I joke around a lot, and I don't really talk about things that seriously bug me. It's all jokes. And I get texts all the time, and I get people talking to me. They're like, you shouldn't have said that. You shouldn't have done that, or you shouldn't be thinking that way. And I have to explain to them for the 500th time that it's just a joke. Okay, it's just a joke. Most of the time, I don't really mean it, but today's rant, I really do mean. And the topic of discussion today is about love. You might be thinking, Nick, why the hell are you talking about love? You're probably right. You're like, what the, I'm kind of thinking to myself, I don't know why I'm talking about it. But I started noticing on social media, I started noticing when I would talk with people, I started noticing when other people talk, because I like observing people. As a communications major, we're kind of taught to people watch. And I really find it entertaining listening to other people communicate with one another, and whether that's verbally or non-verbally. But what I've noticed, especially on social media and especially joining Instagram, is that people are now saying love you instead of I love you. Did you catch the difference? So people on an Instagram post, maybe their picture with their girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, significant other, husband, wife, and they say, say it's the girl's Jennifer, right? Love you, Jennifer. You are my world. Instead of saying, I love you, Jennifer. You are my world. And the reason it bothers me so much is kind of what does that say about your character? That you can't put I, as in yourself, into that sentence and into that emotion. Because that's what love is. It's an emotion. It's a description of how you feel about something or someone. By not using the word I before love you, there's no context. You don't really identify with that sentence or identify or have any sort of identification of who is expressing that emotion. So people who, and I'm not bashing somebody or criticizing somebody for saying, hey, I love you. Like, great. But if you truly love someone, I feel like you should say, I love you. Put yourself in that situation, okay? People don't want to use the word I because they don't want to put themselves in a situation where it can either go good or bad. People, you've got to stop saying love you. Start saying I love you. Because people don't want to identify with... The reason they do this, the reason people say love you instead of I love you is because they don't want to identify with something that could potentially hurt them. And that explains why divorce rates are so massive and why it's so damn hard to find love in this world. So I implore you, the listener, to use the word I and use I. That way the people who you share this life with know it's an unconditional feeling. Does that make sense? I was kind of all over the place just trying to get in the groove of things, but that's something I noticed recently. People don't want to identify with something that could potentially hurt them. So that's why they don't say I love you. They just say love you. So when things go south, if they do, if things go poorly, then they don't feel as connected to that person because they didn't say I love you. They just said love you. And love is such an important word, and it's such an overly used word. You can say I love In-N-Out. You don't love In-N-Out. You really like In-N-Out. I feel like in this world we should really love people because that's who we share it with. The journey of life is shared with people that we love or we supposedly love. That's why I'm telling you, the listener, that even if things go south, and if you feel that kind of way, about somebody, start using the word I, because I love you. There's a big difference between I love you and love you, because people don't want to identify with something that could potentially hurt them in the end. So I implore you to use I. That way, the person that you love or you're telling, who you share this life with, knows that the love is unconditional. That's all I'm saying. 519 here on KSSU.com. I'm Nick Koeneke, the Koeneke Hour on Twitter, Koeneke Hour on YouTube, and Nick Koeneke on Instagram. Check that out. So I wanted to start the show a little different because I started noticing a lot over spring break because people love to post on, about their spring break. I did twice, okay? But people just keep saying, love you. Why can't you say, I love you? Why can't you identify with that sort of emotion? You should be able to identify and put yourself in that context because there's no context. If you just say love you, it's just a phrase. By putting I in it, you give some sort of context and identification to that person that you're expressing that emotion to. And even if you're scared that, that this person could potentially hurt you, that's an honest honest feeling to have. But if you truly love this person, truly care about this person, start using the word I or the pronoun or whatever it is. Noun, I don't know what it is, okay? Because I don't read. So I don't even know why you're listening. Why do you take love advice from me? I really don't know. All right, guys, second segment today. We're going to get into some March Madness. Has everybody's bracket been busted? I assume it has because there are no perfect brackets anymore. No more brackets, no perfect brackets in March Madness. Everybody has a loss. Somebody they picked has lost. But this year's March Madness, and what I'm going to start with before I get into the games, is that in the teams and potential, who's going to win. Sweet 16's coming up. Really excited for that. And I'm not a big college basketball fan. I just don't get into it as much as I used to. Like in high school, I'd get all my buddies together, like 10, 15 of them. We'd fill brackets. We'd play for money, just a couple bucks from everybody, and we took it really seriously. People still do that today. I just don't really like doing it as much because I just don't watch, and I just don't want to spend hours researching and making the correct picks when I know that the bracket's going to be busted anyways. I've never done really well. The best I've finished in a pool is second. I've never won. So I'm not, for those people, let me put this out there too. For those people who fill out brackets just for fun, and then they proclaim it on their social media or I got this pick right. I got this, I did this right. I got this team right. Oh, Duke won. I got them going to the final. It's like, who cares? You're not playing for anything. You're just playing for pride or whatever you call that. That's such BS. Can't stand those people. I know so many people who do that. They're like, hey, you want to fill out a bracket? Want to join our league? I'm like, yeah, sure. How much? I'd love to play for money. I do. I don't get enough people to play for money, and then it's just not worth it. And they're like, no, we just do it for fun. Okay, so you spend 2 to 3 hours researching every team and pick out brackets, and you do it for fun just for bragging rights? What are we in the 3rd grade? Please, play for something. Just like in those fantasy leagues. You either win some money or somebody has to do something really embarrassing or both, right? But March Madness, I'm all wound up. I've had a lot of sugar today. There's been a lack of excitement this year for me. Anybody else feeling that? And that's interesting to me because we go into March and we have there's so much expectation that, they're going to be buzzer beaters. They're going to be controversial endings, crazy performances. Zion scoring 30 points. That was insane against UCF. But this year, there hasn't been that, that pull where you're like, wow, I really got to, watch each game. I don't feel motivated to sit down on a Saturday or a Friday and watch a couple games, during the day. In the round of 64 and 32, there's like 5 or 6 games a day. And if you're lucky, if you cleaned your calendar, you're able to watch most of them. And I know people who do. All for it. Go ahead. But there hasn't been a game or a team or a player, in my opinion, that's saying like, man, I got to watch this. The only game so far that going into that day, I said to myself, or I thought to myself, I got to watch this game was Duke UCF because they did such a great job advertising. Zion, who's going to be the first overall pick with the guy Taco, the 7'6" player from UCF. How's that going to play out? And guess what? That game was insane and really fun to watch and really entertaining. I watched probably almost all of it. I missed the first 2 or 3 minutes, and then I watched the rest of it. And it was great. But overall, with all the other games, with all the other teams, there's not any great storylines for me. There's some players, Jay Morant, you can bring up him saying, Nick, oh, that's a great story. He's going to be a high draft pick. Yeah, dude, that's every year now. It's every year. So there's been a lack of an excitement. Duke survives against UCF, like I mentioned earlier. Great game, really fun. But other than that, I'm kind of like, I've watched a couple games here or there. Why I feel this way is because I'm trying to think of the other games I watched. I only wrote down on my notes Duke UCF. I just wrote Duke UCF. Other than that, at the top of my head, other games that I've watched seriously, I can't probably name you one. I can't. I've watched bits and pieces of a lot of games, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes here and there, but nothing, huge. Nothing that like sticks out to me. Wow, what a great game. Or what a great performance. I watched a little of the Virginia game when they were playing whoever as the 16 seed. Watched a little bit of that. Can't even remember the team they were playing. That's my whole point. And it's not because I didn't watch the games. It's not because I didn't properly, prepare myself for the show. It's just, that's my whole point, is that what has been great game. A lot of these games have been blowouts, 10, 15, 20-point differences at the end of the buzzer or at the buzzer. Nothing. I'm trying to think. I'm trying really hard just for you guys to tell you which games I watched, but I seriously can't. I've watched a little Texas Tech because they intrigue me because they play great defense, and I really think they can be a sleeper in this tournament. But other than that, and we'll talk to Sean Holko about it, and I'll press him about these same questions. Stay tuned for that. He's coming in at 6 o'clock. We're going to talk a little bit of that and then get really into baseball. But I don't know. Just I watched, a little bit of those play-in games. Other than that, nothing really. I have no really, as a sports journalist, so to speak, or as a radio host who hosts a 2-hour show every week, I knew I was like, hey, I got to watch some games whether I like it or not because, it's the storyline. And that's what people are talking about. And that's what March is all about. But this year, it just hasn't stuck to me. Hasn't resonated. It hasn't pulled me in to watch more. That's kind of a shame. Not a shame. It's like, I don't really care. These games, I'll be watching the Sweet 16. I'll watch a little bit of it. And then I'm going to watch the Elite Eight. And I'm going to watch the Final Four. And I'm going to watch the championship game. But these other games, it's like, whatever. I watched a little of the Michigan game. I don't remember who they were playing. Once again, I'm just spitballing. All right, let's move on to Koeneke's Best as we head towards our first break. This week, so if you're new to the program, if you're new to the show, excuse me, I do a segment with Koeneke's Best every single week, and I bring up a story online or something I notice that kind of warms your heart because I'm constantly yelling and complaining and, ranting about things that I don't like that I thought, maybe I'll mix it up. So Koeneke's Best, and this has to do with me. I'm pretty selfish this week. It's all about me this week. I'm talking nonstop, right? But this week, I wanted to talk about something that I'll probably talk about later. But I just wanted to hint at it, that the outpouring support, because I talked to a friend about this, the outpouring support I've gotten for getting an Instagram has made me really happy. And that kind of sounds sad. You're like, oh, the social media app makes you happy? No, that's not what I mean. But since I got an Instagram about like 2 months ago, all I've gotten is positivity from it. From people who message me saying your stories are hilarious or your captions hilarious or, you've made this app even more fun coming on and watching your stuff, or you talking about things, talking about your radio show, talking about things you just ramble about because I just spill nonsense. That's what I do. But people have really loved it. And I've gotten a countless amount of texts and countless amounts of messages after a story that I post about people enjoying what they're seeing. And for me, that makes me really happy because in life, I take a lot of pride in making people laugh. I take a lot of pride and passion into comedy and entertainment and entertaining a listener or a friend or a family member. Like, I even made my mom laugh over spring break about my Instagram. She doesn't know what Instagram is. She knows what it is, but she doesn't use it, doesn't know how to use it. And then I'll get a text from somebody who I haven't talked to in 5 years. I got a text from a guy who, I knew in high school. I didn't know all that well. Knew who he was, knew what he did, like sports or whatever club. Haven't talked to him in probably 5, 6, 7 years. And I get a message from him after I post a story. He goes, man, I laughed so hard at this. This was so funny. Thanks for sending it out. Keep doing what you're doing because you're hilarious and you're, making me laugh. That makes me feel so good. It makes me feel so good about myself. And, I'm being very sentimental today, talking about love and talking about, what things make me happy. And it's not that Instagram makes me happy. It's the people that react and share my comedy and appreciate it as much as I do. Because I try so hard and I really try to make people laugh and make life a little less stressful, a little less serious. And the more you laugh, I think the happier you are. So if I'm able to make you laugh, then I'm happy. So that's Koeneke's Best this week. All right, coming up, we're going to talk opening day. And then we're going to hit another break. And then Sean's going to join me, like I said, at 6 o'clock. I'm really excited to have him on. Haven't had him on in a little while. You can catch him on TBD on Wednesdays from 12 to 2 right here on KSSU.com. And you can check him out on the State Hornet. Speak of the devil, he's right there. Are you ready to talk? Okay, he's got food. So I'm going to hit a break. And I'm going to come out. I'm going to talk to Sean. He's going to come in a little early. he's just listening to me. He's going to come in a little early where I'm going to do one more segment, talk opening day, and then we'll have Sean on in a little earlier. So stay tuned. We'll hit a break. You're listening to the Koeneke Hour right here on KSSU.com. And hanging out, and then coming on the Koeneke Hour. So he'll come on a little earlier. I'll take a little earlier break. But he's going to join me to talk everything MLB in March Madness. It's actually really funny. He literally turned the corner, sees me in the studio, and I'm talking about him, saying how, excited I am to have him back here on KSSU. Nick Koeneke, the Koeneke Hour. Follow that on Twitter, at the Koeneke Hour. Follow my podcast on YouTube. Just type in the Koeneke Hour or Keep Calm and Stay Offended, or type in my name, and find me on Instagram at Nick Koeneke. So what's going on? Yeah, so we have these two giant windows where we can see all, Sac State students, faculty, whoever works or whoever comes on campus because it's a public university, literally right in front of us. And I've had like 3 people look and like point at me. They're like, "Oh, what's going on over there?" Or, "Hey, what's going on?" And I'm looking right back and I'm talking into the microphone. They're thinking I'm talking about them, but I'm really not. I'm just saying a bunch of jibber jabber like I always am. Talking about a whole lot of nothing. Whole lot of nothing. So just got done talking March Madness and how, not that it's not exciting, it doesn't have the hook. In school you learn about how you have to hook a reader in English or communication. You got to hook, you got to start a show, you got to start a paper where it brings in the reader so they want to read more. March Madness really lacked that in the round of 64. They didn't have these great games or these great performances that everybody's talking about. And you're like, oh man, I missed it. I got to catch the other ones. That's why I really haven't been necessarily into it this year. All right, so opening day 2019 is Thursday. Why is an opening day a national holiday? Somebody want to explain that to me? In last year, I actually ditched. But this year I can't because I've ditched too much because I'm a senior and I've skipped too much, so I can't skip class. Last year I was able to. I literally sat at home, sat on my couch with a bunch of Cheetos and a soda pop. I was just watching game after game, it's back finally. And now it's back, but I have to go to school that day. I have to come to class, so I'm gonna miss the first 3 or 4 morning games. Not that I was going to be able to watch them, but at least stay up to date and see what's happening. Because, they don't put every game on. I have the MLB network, I have the Pirates network, and I have, cable, so I can catch a lot of games. And I have the, MLB.TV, things like that, so I can catch a lot of games. But it's just annoying that I have to come to school, and my last class is like 10 minutes before first pitch for the Pirates game. So I got to literally hustle and bustle home to catch the Pirates game. But I got to be at school for 3 hours when it's opening day. Opening day should be a national holiday, just like how the day after the Super Bowl should be a national holiday. Just like how, I don't know, what other, stuff like that, Those are the 2 sports I really love to watch and, participate in and talk about, football and baseball. But those days should be national holidays. The day after the Super Bowl, because everybody's trashed. And the opening day, because opening day is always during the week. So unless you're like a kid with a dad, in elementary school, you could play hooky. But for me, who skip way too many classes, I can't skip more, so I have to come to school instead of watching opening day. And it also, we're heading towards the final parts of this semester and the final parts of spring semester of 2019. So I have to be in class to learn and get the right materials and things like that. But opening day should be a national holiday. And I want to talk about this, and I'm going to talk to Sean about this, but I wanted to kind of get my 2 cents out about what to expect and what to think about in players and teams and what I'm really looking at going into 2019. And that's got to be starting off with, there's some great divisional races in divisions that are going to be really tight this year. You got the AL East to start. World Series defending champions, Boston Red Sox. Okay, then you got the Yankees, who are always, really good. They're always good. Okay, and then you got a Rays team where I talked a couple weeks ago, or not a couple weeks ago, like a month ago, how I really think they can be a sleeper right before spring training started. I talked about it. I think they can be a sleeper. I know it's a tough division. I know it's tough to beat the Red Sox and beat the Yankees when you play them, 16 times a year. But the Rays, they're just one of those little sexy teams. They're like the Brooklyn Nets of Major League Baseball, okay? Brooklyn Nets in the NBA, they're just, they play hard. They're going to get in a playoff, and they're not going to lie down like every other team that's tanking or trying to tank. No, they're like, I got D'Lo. D'Lo's going to throw up a 3 in your face. He's going to make it, and guess what? We're going to beat you by 2 points. That's what the Rays are. They scrap, they fight, but win a lot of one-run games, I think. They had a really good year last year, even though they didn't make the playoffs. I think they had like 89 wins, 90 wins. But they can be a team, in my opinion, that could not necessarily a challenge for the division, but just like a little sexy team to think about. You know what I mean, man? You know what I'm talking about, man? Okay, moving throughout the American League, because then I'll move to the National League. The AL West is kind of interesting, and here's why. You got the Astros, who are the presumptive division winners. They're favorite to win, and they probably will. And then you got teams like the Angels and teams like the Athletics, 2 teams that are small market ball clubs who went out, the Angels specifically, went out and spent a lot of money on Mike Trout, but they got Ohtani. They've got a good little team. For whatever reason, they can't put it together. That could be a team to look out for and a team to look towards heading into the season. That's a cool little division. You got the Astros, who probably going to run away with it later in the year, September. But you got the Angels, who've got, a good staff, good offense, best player in the world. They should be able to compete. And then the A's. I mean, the A's, for whatever freaking reason, can the A's win a freaking playoff game or a playoff series? They're always throughout the season. They're playing with the lowest payroll in baseball. They got the bummiest guys, for whatever reason, who are just really average, but somehow squeak out victory after victory. Bob Melvin just won American League Manager of the Year last year. They didn't win in the wild card game against the Yankees, but that's another team you got to think about. That's another team you should, take a look at. Heading into, the middle dog days, see where they're at. The AL Central is kind of a mess, so I'm not even going to mess with that. But moving over to the National League, more divisions that are real, just this season, to describe the 2019 season, and hopefully I can bring this up with Sean, is there's just some sexiness to it. I don't know what it is. There's just, it's intriguing, unlike March Madness. The offseason was really bad for Major League Baseball because you had all these guys who weren't signing and there was no excitement going into teams, no excitement for fan bases. That was just the case. But you got teams, especially in the East, that's going to be crazy because the Braves are way ahead of schedule. The Phillies, you know what they did in the offseason. And then the Nationals. I'm not saying the Nationals are going to be any good, but after losing their superstar in Bryce Harper, but adding pitching, maybe that was a good thing. Maybe it's not. Who knows? But another kind of divisions that are going to go down to the wire or be really competitive for most of the season. Then you got the Central. Central's always the best division in baseball. Not the best division. Check that. Rewind. clear the space. Not the best division, but the most competitive. Because you got the Cubs, who a lot of people are predicting to really take a big step back. You got the Brewers, who won the division, played really well, have arguably one of the best outfields in baseball. And you got the Pirates. The reason I'm bringing the Pirates is because that's obviously, my team. So I'm going to bring them up. They have arguably the best pitching staff in the National League. I don't care who you are. I don't care who you think. I think they have a top 2, top 3 staff. A lot of people think they have a top 5. I think they got a top 3. And then you got the Cardinals, who really retooled this year after starting off really slow, firing their manager, Matheny, getting an interim. He gets a contract, and now you retool, you get a guy like Goldschmidt. Playing first, hitting a lot of power in a National League ballpark. It's going to be a crazy year in the Central. And then moving over to the West, another crazy, not the craziest of the National League, it's the least, but you got some intriguingness. Dodgers, who've been to 2 World Series in a row, losing both. You got the Padres, who just signed Manny Machado. They still don't have pitching, so I don't expect much from them. But that's, they got a superstar, so that's obviously you're going to look at that team a little more. You got the Diamondbacks, who really didn't do anything this offseason. The Giants, who don't have a farm system whatsoever. And then you got the Rockies, who are always seem to be just like hanging out. We might get a walk. Then the Rockies are the National League's Oakland Athletics. Not in payroll, not anything like that, but how they play and the record each year. And Bud Black's done a great job for them. I think they went to the playoffs last year, but it's going to be interesting to see how each division plays out. And then players, you got to look at specific players going into this year. This is why I'm so excited. You got Bryce Harper, who's playing in a tiny ballpark, who's probably going to hit 50 home runs, but does he improve his overall statistics? I don't know. He struck out a lot last season, was batting in the 210s, 215s first half of the season. Okay, you got Manny Machado in San Diego. What does that do for the Padres? Does that, propel them into a really, a half-decent record, maybe 500? If it doesn't, are they going to add? What's going to happen? But it's real. I think baseball this year, after a really poor offseason, is really in store for a exciting month-by-month basis. And what I mean by that is that there's going to be action, and there's going to be intriguing storylines, and there's going to be ups and downs for every team, divisions up for grabs throughout the year, through the dog days of summer, and into fall. And that's why baseball is really exciting and really intriguing going into this year. I'm so excited for opening day. I can't wait. Tonight I'm going to the Sac State game. They're playing Cal Berkeley tonight. Really great matchup. Sac State, arguably one of the best pitching staffs in the league. See, another freaking person. This is what dude, these windows, it's fine. Okay, I don't get easily distracted, but the amount of people who think that I'm not looking at them or not observing or not watching them try to distract me, it's indescribable. I'll have to take a picture one of these days and send it so you know what I'm looking at and know what I'm seeing. Because I'm trying to paint this picture. These girls literally walk by and they're like, ooh, ooh. I'm not playing music. I'm talking sports. And talking absolute nonsense. Why don't you come over where the speaker is? It's not currently plugged in right now, and I'm sure they unplugged it because of me, because I'm going to make my bosses regret this decision. Regret the decision for me to spew all my nonsense throughout the campus of Sacramento State. But I was on a roll. These girls come up, they're waving their hands in the air, they're like, ooh, ooh, ooh. It's like, come on. Have some not compassion, consideration. This guy's looking at me right here, walking around with a coffee. What the hell are you looking at, buddy? All right, guys, we're going to take a break. Sean Holko will join me next. You're listening to the Koeneke Hour here on KSSU.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to recommend that you go to listen to KSSU.com. I love listening to it at all hours of the day, especially while having a spot of tea. Go to kssu.com and click Listen Live to enjoy.
Our friends at Evans Kitchen and Catering would like to remind our listeners that drunk driving is now the leading cause of death among 15 to 24-year-olds. Each and every day, 14 teenagers die in drunk driving accidents. Anything you can do as a parent or friend to help prevent young people from drinking and driving may save their lives and perhaps your own. Take some time out today and talk with your children or friends about the dangers of drinking and driving. Your concerns could save lives. This important reminder was from Evans Kitchen and Catering here in Sacramento for parties of all sizes. For more information on their services, you can visit them online at chefevan.com. Concerned with the safety of our community, they're on the air because they care.
Lewis! Mom! Mommy! Mama! Mom! Mommy! Mama!
What? KSSU.
Glory, glory, Sacramento.
Tune in to TBD, To Be Debated, Sports Talk with Sean and Keith, Wednesdays from 12 to 2 on KSSU.
Tune into the Koeneke Hour Tuesdays from 5 to 6 on KSSU, where I discuss everything in the sports world.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story, and I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
You are listening to the Koeneke Hour on KSSU Radio. Here is your host, Nick Koeneke.
We got really nice comfy chairs here in the studio nowadays. They got, like, you can adjust their height, you can adjust the armrest, you can adjust, like how far you go back, and then the cushions. Oh, God, I'm really bad at the commercials today. I've had 2 weeks off. Sean's in the studio, and we'll get to him in just a sec. But back to the chairs. They're, like, comfy, and I want to stand for the show because, sitting's the new smoking.
Yeah.
So, but the nice chairs are like, come on. It's like, it's inviting. It's really...
We literally thought of the same word.
It's inviting, just like all these people. Okay, these people walking back and forth. I mentioned that the parking lot's over there, but the library's here, and everybody walks through here to get to class or get back to their house. And they're always looking. They're like, oh, what's going on? It's like, dude, this is the student radio. What do you think I'm doing talking to myself into a microphone? I'm not talking to anybody in here. I'm talking to myself. Now, I mean, there's listeners out there, but if you're walking by here, you're like, what the hell is he doing over there?
Yeah.
So Sean Holko joins me. At Holko23. Why do you have 23 in there? You like LeBron or something?
No, not because I'm a fan. Well, I am a fan of LeBron. Mm-hmm. I am a fan of Michael Jordan.
Right.
I am a fan of all of those guys, all the great athletes, whether if it's basketball or whatever sport.
Sean has brought his bracket in, and we will get to that shortly. He also works for the State Hornet. Check that out.
I sure do.
He does the raps for baseball.
Yes, I am the baseball beat writer as well as the women's basketball beat writer, but it is now spring, so now I'm the baseball beat writer. And to answer your question, before we get to March Madness, is the reason why I have 23.
Oh, right. Back to that, yeah.
Come on, let's go back. Come
sure.
on, Nick.
Yes. Okay.
The reason why I have 23 isn't because of any athlete, but it's simply just because I was born on May 23rd.
Okay.
So all my life, 23 has been my favorite number, but everyone always associates it with LeBron James or Michael Jordan.
Fair enough. Yes. Well, that was my first impression because I knew your tag, and you've come on the show, and I tagged you in things. I just noticed the 23, so that's why I kind of was asking. But anyways, also you can check him out Wednesdays 12 to 2, TBD, To Be Debated with him and Keith Joganatos. But sometimes he's not there. So sometimes, like over spring break, it was just you, and you did great, buddy. And it was like,
thank you. Yeah, I know. It was cool though because as those of you who are listening right now on KSSU.com or on the TuneIn Radio app, you search KSSU, and you've been listening to Nick's show for the last hour. You know that we are in this brand new studio here at the Union at Sac State. Finally moved back, and it was cool because I got to do the last show at the Well. And I did it solo. I did it for an hour last week, but I filled out my entire March Madness bracket.
There you go.
It looks okay so far.
How do you like the new studio?
You know, it's really nice. This is actually my first time.
They need to get their crap together.
Well, yeah, of course. And if we were doing a Facebook Live feed like I usually do on my feed, you would just see everything that's in here right now. There's just boxes of CDs. But to be fair, we just moved.
Yep.
We got the equipment set up. They got the stuff that is important set up. So we're good.
Yeah. What do you think of the speaker, real quick? So we have so for the people who are just joining the show, if you weren't here earlier, also go check out the podcast later today. If you missed part of the show, type in the Koeneke Hour on YouTube. But we got a speaker just outside, so I'm gonna spew my nonsense to these hornets, these Sac State students. What is your impression for yourself about it? Are you comfortable? And what advice or opinion do you have for me? Because I say whatever comes to my head, and there might be people who might look poorly over here, and I might get a lot of people in trouble. What are your thoughts?
You know, my thoughts on her is I think that it's honestly great. I think that this is just going to bring more eyes to KSSU, and I think that there's going to be more people wanting to listen to our shows, especially if they walk by right now. And the speakers aren't set up yet, but they should be by next week is what we've been told. So they might just walk by and they hear you spewing some nonsense, ranting about Antonio Brown or Le'Veon Bell.
Right.
And then they're like, you know what? I want to hear this nonsense. And for me, when I do my show with Keith, I think it might be a little interesting sometimes because sometimes our show is named To Be Debated. So we debate about sports topics, and sometimes it gets heated. So I think sometimes someone might walk by and they just hear screaming, or they just hear Keith screaming, "Oh, what the heck?" Blah, blah, blah. And so
Stephen A. Smith.
Yeah, right. Keith A. Smith. Yeah, right.
Keith A. Smith.
Yeah, so I think it's a good thing, but it's also it's like life. It's how you choose to use it.
Right. This is and you say it's going to be great for the give recognition for the station and get more noise. This is how delusional one of my housemates is. He literally walks right by. I stare him down as he was walking by. This is how oblivious he is. Doesn't even notice. The guy is insane. And it's just another thing I noticed. Another chick who just looked me in the eye. She's like, "What the hell are we doing? Let's get to sports. You have your bracket." Sean, let me describe Sean for you.
Oh, this is going to be great.
Sean might be the most annoying person when it comes to March Madness on Twitter, and here's why. It's nothing personal, nothing like that, but all he does is spew. He's like, "Oh my God, I got this one right. The rest of America, only 32%, 0.5, 400,000 people got right, and I was one of them, and I'm really, man."
I don't know if that's a direct quote, but
it's
continue.
not. It's not. But
continue.
But like I have you on for a reason. But on the Twitter, like you're like, "Oh hey, I got this." It's like cool, you got it. But like, what's the Is it to show off? What is the reason behind it? Because it's just nothing personal whatsoever. I could care less what you do. It's just something I noticed that like a lot of my friends who do it, they're like, "Oh hey, I got it right." I'm like, "Oh yeah, how much you playing for?" They're like, "Oh, this is just for fun." "Oh, you're just doing it for pride?" Like, come on, you got to be better than that.
Yeah. So for me, and the points that you make are extremely valid, especially because last year is the first year that we really got to know each other. You followed me on Twitter. So in terms of last year, yeah, last year was bad. Last year, it's like, "Oh, Nevada just won. I got that right. Check." This year, I put out one tweet.
Oh, yeah, one tweet.
I put out one tweet, and you already quoted it, and you were like, "Sean doing this again." Yeah. So this year, I put out one tweet, and Nick, I appreciate it because you made me conscious of it to stop.
Oh, I didn't want to. Again, it was nothing negative.
Unintentionally, you did it.
Okay.
So I put out one tweet, and it was like, "Oh, the only pick I've gotten wrong so far." This was like on Thursday or Friday. Yeah. I think it was on Thursday, late on Thursday. But I put the only pick that I've gotten wrong is the Louisville game, which was the very first game. So my bracket was already busted after the first game. Right. And then Nick quotes it, and he's like, "Here's Sean telling you every single pick he got right on it." As Nick takes a look at my bracket. So as you can see from my bracket, my Sweet 16, it's looking all right.
Yeah.
11 out of
really is.
15 teams. That's all right. There were a couple picks that I really reached on, and we'll get into that. But,
Yeah,
I'm all right.
So you reached on Nevada.
Yeah.
Kansas wasn't a reach.
I
But
believe.
It was,
I really believed in Eric Musselman, and because Nevada had such an experienced team, they just fell victim to a better team.
I had Kansas also going that far.
That game was a real surprise. Kansas and Auburn. That was a real surprise.
Right? Wasn't it like a 20-point win?
Yeah, they were up 20 on them in the first half, and then they just controlled the second half.
So you have Duke, North Carolina, like a lot of people do. That'd be a great final. What I first want to talk about with you is I explained why this year has been not. We talked about how the chairs are inviting.
Yes.
This year it's been, I don't know, there's been a lack of an excitement. And I'm not that guy who's like, there's got to be buzzer beaters and there's got to be, controversial endings. There's got to be this, and this. But it hasn't happened this year. And to be quite frank, I've only watched one full game, and that was that Duke UCF game, which was phenomenal.
Yes.
Great game. But other than that, I was trying to think, on Live Air, I was trying to think at the top of my head who, I watched, and I couldn't think of anybody. So what are your impressions? Are you happy? Are you feeling the same way with me? Are you excited for Sweet 16? What is your overall impression so far of March Madness?
For me, this kind of reminds me, I think the year was 2014, when Kentucky went undefeated throughout the season, and I have a stat for you that'll match this. But it sort of completely reminds me of 2014.
Wait, they went undefeated?
Undefeated until the Final Four. And
so they were like 35-0?
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
It was the Anthony Davis team.
I remember that team. I don't remember them going, but whatever.
So anyways, my impression, to answer the question, my impression of March Madness so far is it reminds me of 2014. That is because that's the Kentucky team that everyone picked to win the tournament. They were undefeated coming into the tournament. Everyone thought that they were going to finish the season undefeated. And then they ended up losing in the semifinals to Wisconsin that year in the Final Four. And the reason why I just completely just think about that team is because 43% of America picked Duke to win the college championship this year. That's
including you.
Including me. I don't know about you.
No.
Did you pick Duke? Are you one of...
I had this year, because I wasn't in a paid thing, I just BS the whole thing.
Yeah.
I can't tell you who I picked.
Hey, that's fair.
I had let me see.
Yeah, take a look.
I had an 11 seed making it, not Belmont, not them.
11 seed was it St. Mary's?
No, it wasn't St. Mary's.
I almost had St. Mary's going to the Elite Eight, but then I decided to keep them in the Sweet 16. That still didn't pay off, obviously, because they lost to Villanova. But anyways, to answer your original question, this really reminds
Vermont. I had Vermont. Just
all right.
Bogus. I was like, Vermont, whatever.
Were you drunk when you filled out the bracket?
No, I was not. I was completely sober.
All right, fair enough. But it really reminds me of that just because of how popular of a pick Duke is this year. And for me, all year long, it's been Duke versus everybody. That is what's going to happen when you have 3 of the top 5 players, maybe 3 of the top 10 players in the country, at least 2 of the top 5, 2 of the top 3 even, players in the country with Zion, RJ Barrett, Cam Reddish. So it's been Duke versus everyone this year. They seemed mortal when Zion went down, and if Zion was not playing in this tournament, I would not pick them. But when Zion Williamson is playing for Duke, they're nearly unbeatable, as we saw Gonzaga beat them earlier in the year, and UCF almost beat them.
So Duke, UNC, I've got Texas Tech as a team to watch. Who do you have in the Sweet 16 that aren't those 3 teams?
Originally, if you had asked me this last week, I would definitely say St. Mary's and Nevada were 2 teams that I would really keep an eye on, just because coming into the tournament, Nevada was the 7 seed, St. Mary's was an 11 seed. They ended up getting matched up with the defending champs in Villanova. They lost a good game. Villanova went on to lose the next round. But to answer your question of teams that I would keep an eye on that are still active in the tournament, one team that I got 2 teams actually. 2 teams I want to keep an eye on. The first one is Kentucky. That may seem like a weird pick just because Kentucky is in it every year. Kentucky is always in the Sweet 16 every year. That's what you're going to have with John Calipari.
Gonzaga,
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. They're one of the favorites. And even Kentucky, they're the 2nd seed, so they're really not an underdog. But the reason why I bring them up is because nobody's been talking about Kentucky all year long. It's been the Duke show. It's been the North Carolina show. Everyone has been talking about the ACC. Nobody has cared about the SEC, even though the SEC has been one of the best leagues in the country right next to the ACC. So keep an eye on Kentucky because they have a really good young team. And then the other team that I would keep an eye on is the 12th seed Oregon coming out of the South side. Oregon's matched up against Virginia, who is the number 1 seed coming up on March 28th, I believe, in Sweet 16, at least later in this week. So I would keep an eye on Oregon. They won the Pac-12 tournament. They are a really, really solid team. And a lot of people, just because they're a 12th seed, people are sleeping on them. But Oregon has a really good team, despite the fact that the Pac-12 wasn't that great this year.
Yeah, that's the biggest, what's the word I'm looking for? Biggest kind of critique towards them. It's like, you're in the Pac-12. They're not. In every single major men's sport, football and basketball, they are not what they used to be. Not at all, and I think it's hilarious. And you know why? Okay, this is just a little rant. It's because they can't play defense. That's my rant, and I'm going to stick with it, and that's what's going to be the end of it.
I would support that.
Yeah. Because look at like the Big Ten. They play great defense. They run the football in football. Okay. That's why they win games. That's why they win big games. These Pac-12 teams, the UCLA, Oregon, they just want to spread it out, throw it. It's like no wonder you're losing 9, 10 games a season. And we're kind of getting into football here, but it applies for football and basketball. And with Oregon, as you alluded to there, is that you see these teams match up with a Big Ten school or an ACC school or SEC school, whether if it's football or basketball in the tournaments, whether if it's a conference championship game, NCAA tournament, or a bowl game. And most of the time, you see the Oregon team get exposed because they can't play defense, and they're used to having shootouts in the Pac-12 where both teams put up 40 points. Right. We're talking with Sean Holko23 on Twitter, State Hornet, and TBD Wednesdays 12 to 2 right here on KSSU. Let's move to baseball. Opening day's Thursday. Can't wait. A's fan, Pirates fan, small market, so we got a lot in common. Going into this year, I talked about how, unlike March Madness, it's been intriguing. You got a lot of cool storylines, even though baseball had a really bad offseason. You got 4 divisions that are not necessarily up for grabs, but are going to be really competitive. Then you got new players on different teams, superstars on different teams. So to start the year, you've got some things to look towards as a baseball fan. What are you looking forward to in the month of April, maybe a little into May? Maybe a player, maybe a team storyline. What are you looking at going into 2019?
For me, the storyline that I'm really interested in there's 2 of them that I'm really interested in going into the 2019 season. The first one is the San Francisco Giants. I honestly have and I see the look on your face when I say that.
I don't know why, but go ahead.
The reason for me being interested in the San Francisco Giants is because they're either really good or really bad is what they have been, at least in the last 10 years. Coming into this year, it's a contract year for Madison Bumgarner. He is the face of the Giants. He is the reason why they won 3 championships in 5 years. So for me, I'm really interested in how the Giants do this upcoming year, whether if they are a complete flop or if they end up sneaking into that wild card, because I don't think that they're good enough to win the NL West.
No, not at all.
Thank you. But I'm interested to see how they do this year, because I've been talking to a lot of Giants fans, friends who I have, because there's Giants fans all over Sacramento,
demographic,
especially after they won 3 out of 5 years. Some A's fans converted, and they are all dead to me. But anyways, I'm really interested to see how the Giants do this year. And the other thing that I'm really interested in is these young guys. We are seeing a wave of young guys in MLB this year. I just drafted Vlad Guerrero Jr. onto my KSSU.
Did he make the big team squad?
No,
okay.
and that's part of the storyline that I'm intrigued with, is because with Vlad Guerrero, we're seeing the same situation that we had a couple years ago with Chris Bryant, where everyone knew how much of a stud Chris Bryant was. Everyone knew how great he was. He was just sitting in the Cubs farm system, ready to be a major leaguer, but yet they made him wait those first 3 weeks or the first year, because in baseball they have the weird rule where if you keep a player in the minors for the first 3 weeks to a month in the first month of the regular season, then they have an extra year on their contract. Or I don't know the exact terms of it, but you get an extra year year, or you have the rights to a player for an extra year. So just for having one of your star young players sit out the first month of the season to stay in the minors and dominate down there, you get an extra year with their contract.
Yeah, it's worth it.
And we're seeing it pay off now with Chris Bryant in the Cubs. So I'm really interested in the young guys coming up this year. You got Vlad Guerrero. You got the two studs over in Atlanta with Ozzy Albus and Osuna.
Or is it Acuna?
Acuna. Ronald Acuna. Ronald Acuna Jr. And honestly, we're seeing the new wave of young, great players in MLB. And I think that 2019 is the year that, not that they didn't already in 2018, but I think 2019 is the year that they really all break out and show that they can be potential all-stars.
You got any favorites in the National League, maybe a favorite in the American League, one team from each league that you think could really make a run at a championship that isn't necessarily obvious?
Ooh, I'm glad that you included that last part, because instantly, when you think of AL teams in contention, you automatically think of the two behemoths in the AL East. You think Yankees and Red Sox. Then you, of course, go straight to the Astros, who won the championship a couple years ago in the AL West.
And no A's either. Can't bring the A's in.
No. Even if I wasn't an Oakland A's fan, I wouldn't bring them in, and I'll talk to you about the A's and their outlook for this upcoming season. But I'm glad. I was really prepared to answer that question until you said that's not obvious.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can pick the obvious, but you gotta back up your point. Like specific. So for me, like, I didn't bring this up, and I wanted to. Mm-hmm. I could easily say the Phillies are, a big time favorite in the National League. Yeah, what I will say is, if they do not win the pennant, at the very least, that's a disappointing year for them. Okay, I know they were under 500 last year, but it's a disappointing year. In the American League, I talked about how the Rays are really kind of a sleeper, sexy team. And what I mean by sexy is
you're creeping me out because you're reading my mind right now.
They just grind out one-run ball club. They don't play baseball like everybody else. They're the American League Athletics. Okay, that's what they are. And they're just a little sexy.
Wait, what?
They're the American League. Oh, they're both in the American League. Sorry. Okay, they're the East Coast.
Okay,
I'll take that. I said that earlier. I'll check that. Let's delete that. What it meant was East Coast Athletics. They're just a little. They signed what's his face to a 3-year extension.
Yeah, that was
what the hell's his name?
We're both gonna hate ourselves for not thinking of this right now.
Lefty.
Yes, I'm literally. I have his face in my head right now.
Me too. But anyways, back to the point. Like, those are like, much like March Madness, the favorites this year in baseball, like, that's who's going to end up being. But besides that, there's a big difference between 500 ball clubs and ball clubs that can win a championship.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And Blake Snell.
Thank you.
Blake Snell. Thank you.
I knew it was an S.
Yeah, right.
I was like, it's not Sale, because
I knew he was number 39, and I'm like, I hate that when you can picture him and you just can't think of the name. Right. But anyways, I like that analogy. Not the American League part, but the Rays are the A's of the East, and it rhymes and everything. You can make a rap out of it.
Right.
But you're completely right in the sense that both teams struggle with attendance. Both teams are in the bottom third of MLB in payroll. The Rays are probably, I think, the lowest now, because the A's have actually started to spend a little bit more money in recent years, which is ridiculous. But anyways, I really like that pick, and you freaked me out, because as I was thinking, I had already thought the Rays in the AL, and then I was like, okay, who's in the NL? I was like, well, you got Bryce Harper, who just went to Philly, and then you're like, and the Phillies, and I'm like, dude, there's a reason why we're friends. You're just reading my mind here.
Right.
I agree with you. I think it is a disappointment if the Phillies don't win it, especially after the big signings that they have. They didn't just sign Bryce Harper. They brought in Andrew McCutchen. They traded for Gene Segura.
Paid him a lot.
They have Rhys Hoskins. So McCutchen is back in Pennsylvania.
Right.
And they got Rhys Hoskins, who is an up-and-coming pro, Stingers up.
Right.
And I completely agree with you there. And now we go from the A's of the East to the A's that are on the West.
Right.
The Oakland Athletics.
You got 1 minute. Give me a preview of what to expect out of them. Like, can Bob Melvin, get another Coach of the Year? That's rare, but can they get to another playoff game, wild card, whatever it is? Can they win 90 games? Are they going to be able to do what they did last year with this squad? You got 1 minute.
For me, as much as I really want to say that they're going to make it back to the playoffs this year, I don't think that's going to happen. As an A's fan, it hurts to say it, but as an objective baseball fan and of someone who wants to pursue a career in sports journalism, I have to be objective. And the weakness with the Oakland A's, it's the same thing that they had last year, is the pitching staff. Their bullpen is excellent. You have Blake Trinan at the bottom of that bullpen closing it out. He made the All-Star team for the first time last year. They even got Fernando Rodney as a setup guy. Because
he's like 80 years old.
I know, but take him from the closing role and make him a setup guy, at least in the 7th or 8th inning, probably a 7th inning because the A's still have Lou Trevino, and I need to get under a minute. But the A's have a great, excellent bullpen, one of the best bullpens in all of baseball, right next to the Yankees and a couple other teams. But the starting pitching is so weak. The A's have a great young lineup. They have the Matt Olson. He's going to be out for at least a month. He got injured in Japan. They got Matt Chapman. The A's have a great young batting lineup. They have a great bullpen, but the Achilles heel is always starting pitching. Last year we saw the A's plug in old guys like Trevor Cahill, Blake. I was about to say Blake Trinan. It's not Blake Trinan. It's Brett Anderson. There we go. Brett Anderson, Trevor Cahill, and they actually did the job, and they did the job for the A's. But they already lost Sean Manaea at the end of last year. He's going to be out all of this year. Jesus Luzardo is the A's young up-and-coming prospect that just came from AAA. He was supposed to be one of the starters this year. He goes down in the Japan series. He's going to be out 4 to 6 weeks. For me, as great as the A's look on paper, that pitching staff is poor, and that pitching staff will be the Achilles heel of this team this year.
So 500?
Yeah, I think that they'll be 500, but the Astros are going to run away with the division again. Yep. They don't have a shot. They don't have a shot at the division, so they have to go for one of those 2 AL wild cards. You have to think one of those AL East teams is going to take the wild card, whoever doesn't win the division, just like last year, how the Yankees almost ran away with that first wild card. And then I just think a team like the Rays or maybe a team out of the AL Central that competes for the crown in that division, I just think that there won't be enough spots for the A's to try and sneak in the wild card like they did last year.
Last thing for Sean, you also got one more minute for this. I saw this on Twitter, and I saw this actually on the news. I saw it both places. With the Kings now not going to be in the playoffs, was this a successful season for the Kings? 1 minute.
1,000,000%. It was beyond a success for the Kings. Coming into this season, the Kings had the lowest over-under projected from Vegas at 26 wins. I almost said 25. 26 wins. That is disrespectful, especially considering that the A's got 20, or not the A's. I need to get back to basketball now. The Kings had 29 wins last year. They said that they were going to get worse. I wish that I went and put down $1 million on the over because we talk too much about baseball. The Kings surpassed that over-under.
We all know what you mean.
Yeah, exactly. The Kings surpassed that over-under way early. Fans like myself and my friend Keith were disappointed because the Kings aren't going to make the playoffs, and it looked for a while like they were going to sneak into that 8th seed. But the close losses caught up to them. All the great games, the 4 losses against the Warriors by a combined 12 points, the losses to the Nuggets, the losses to the upper echelon of teams in the West that you need to beat if you're going to make the playoffs, those losses caught up to them. And then now they're out of the playoff picture. But to answer your question, this was by far a successful season for the Sacramento Kings. And next year, they're looking at a playoff spot.
So a lot to look forward.
Most definitely. And I think what really was the best part about this season for the Sacramento Kings is that they're relevant again. They're not the laughingstock of the NBA anymore. That's the Phoenix Suns now. And I just think that it was such a successful season for the Kings. In hindsight is 2020. Yes, I would love to see them in the playoffs right now, but the future is extremely bright.
That's Sean Holko. Check him out on Twitter at Holko23, HOLKKO23. Also, check him out on the State Hornet here at Sacramento State, and check him out here on TBDKSSU.com. What is it? Wednesdays, 12 to 2 with Keith. That's Keith and Sean, TBD. Hey, enjoy the Cal-Sac State game tonight. I will see you momentarily, and I appreciate the time.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on, buddy, and I will see you at the John.
Yes. All right, that's Sean. We're going to hit a break as he heads out. Last 2 segments, going to talk about something that I keep noticing at ballparks. Why do adults keep giving kids foul balls? Make the kids get them themselves, and then we'll talk about the sided debate of the week. We'll be right back. You're listening to the Koeneke Hour on KSSU. Welcome back to the Koeneke Hour here on KSSU. I'm Nick Koeneke. Follow me on Twitter at the Koeneke Hour. Also follow my podcast on YouTube at the Keep Calm and Stay Offended podcast. Also, you can find out... I keep messing these commercials up, man. Also, you can find out... or you can find podcasts, excuse me. I'm all flustered. You can find the podcast of the show. If you missed part of the show, go on YouTube, type in the Koeneke Hour. You'll be able to find all of that. Also, follow me on Instagram at Nick Koeneke. All right, guys, here on March 26, 2019, finishing up March. Let's get into something that I noticed throughout spring training and last season in baseball. And what I mean is something I've noticed with the fans. And I'll explain right here now on Stop It Right Now. Welcome to Stop It Right Now.
No.
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
Stop it. Get some help.
I love that promo. I say that every day. All right, guys, Stop It Right Now has to do with why do fans, especially adults, now feel compelled that they have to give a foul ball to a kid? You know what I'm talking about? If you've been to a baseball game, if you've seen it on TV, you always see those happy-go-lucky, really heartwarming stories about an adult catching a fly ball or a foul ball or a home run and giving it to the little 6-year-old who, is just so happy to get it. Why do people keep doing that? Stop it right now with giving kids foul balls. When I was a kid, I had to fight off a horde of other kids along with a drunken dad who still thinks he can play right field even though he didn't even eclipse JV baseball back in his high school days. Why do adults now feel like they have to give a baseball or a foul ball to a little kid? I don't understand it. Does somebody want to explain that to me? Stop it right now with giving little kids foul balls. If you catch it, keep it. Make the kid catch the foul ball. It builds character. You can't just give kids everything they want. Everybody gets a participation trophy nowadays, okay? Everybody gets that shit. Ooh, shouldn't have said that. Excuse me. Everybody gets that. But why do little kids get free foul balls? They should have to learn how to get it. They should have to learn how to go and, fight off other kids, like best of them, Make them, play more catch so they can be ready for the ball in the field. But why does when an adult catch it, they're like, oh, I have to give it to the kid behind me or people are going to yell at me. Or I'm a terrible person because I didn't give it to a little kid. Why do people think they have to do that? I don't know. Seriously, when I was a kid, I would have to run to the ball, fight off a couple kids who were grabbing at me, a drunken dad, or, some degenerate in the outfield trying to get it too. And guess what? When the adult ended up getting it because he's much bigger, much stronger, much faster than a little kid, he would keep the ball. Nowadays, we have to give it to a little kid. I just don't get it. I don't. Stop giving little kids foul balls. Stop it. Stop it right now. Last segment of the show, let's go to the Koeneke Hour Sided Debate of the Week, sided.co. For more information about this debate, go on Twitter. I'll tweet it out. Go debate. And this is all baseball because it's been a highly talked about sport in today's program in being opening day on Thursday. Who are your favorite? And we talked about it with Sean. I talked a little bit about it. Who are your favorites? The Koeneke Hour Sided Debate of the Week. Who is your favorite to win the NL and the AL pennants? Or pennant. In the National League, honestly, it's got to be the Phillies. And if they don't win the pennant, it's a disappointing season. Other than that, I don't really see anybody else. I really don't. It's their their league to win. And in the American League, it's so wide open. There's so many good teams. Red Sox defending champions. Yankees got all that power. Astros are always good. I talked about the Rays a little bit, to name a few teams. But in the American League, you got to go with the Red Sox, defending world champions. They kept basically the same team, and they completely dominated in October. So who is the Koeneke Hour sided debate of the week? Who is your favorite to win the NL and AL pennant? I'm going with the Phillies, and I'm going with the Red Sox. Just because of how things played out in 2019. Was it 2018? Yes. And then how the offseason went for the Phillies, adding so many players, so much payroll. All right, guys, that'll do it for me today here on the Koeneke Hour. Going to be back next Tuesday from 5 to 7 here on KSSU. Got to check that out. Check out the podcast if you missed any part of today's show. Sorry for the little slip up with the cussing. That was not planned. Sorry for that. But yeah, make sure to check it out on YouTube. Also check me out on Instagram at the Koeneke Hour. Also check out the Twitter at the Koeneke Hour. I'm so flustered. I mean, it's not that I'm tired. It's just I haven't done this in 2 weeks, so I'm just trying to get back in the feel of things. And I thank you to the listener for sticking through it and sticking with me today. Well, once again, thanks to Sean Holko for joining me, Holko23. He is on Twitter. He's on the State Hornet, and he is here on KSSU 12 to 2 on Wednesdays talking sports. So once again, I'm Nick Koeneke. Thanks for tuning in, guys. I'll check on you next week right here on KSSU.com, 5 to 7 p.m. Pacific time. Once again, I'm Nick Koeneke. I'll see you guys next week.